はい、わしずチャンネル。なんだ他人監督だ。はい。というわけで。まあ当然ね、ここまで行くとね、たまじとばっかりなわけよ。ちょい待ち。かな。はい。よし。やっぱ行かないな。行かないな、これ。行かないわ。これどうすりゃいいんだ。まあもう、これもう我慢しよう。今日は。時間もないし。しゃあないし。あとで、試合終わったら確認するわ。ちょっと、あれは見えないっぽいから、こっちから見る。その前に例の儀式をやらないと。コメント見えないかもしれない。コメント壊れてる、これ。それと、どうするか。これだけやんないかな。はいはい。というわけで。これはでも。コメント聞こえません、これ多分。申し訳ない。なんでこれ出ないんだろうね。出た。はい。よし。お部屋は、具割り日か。はいはい。 いや、OK だね。ちょっと待って。はい、よろしくお願いします。
East 1, the Dora is the 9 of cracks. The player is south. How does this starting hand look to you?
This could turn into a very big hand.
Let's see how this battle unfolds. Who's going to make the first call here? The player. Already 2 tiles to Tempai. Any calls on this tile? The player makes a call out of nowhere.
This lifts a heavy burden. Maybe it is better to hold back without any north tiles visible.
Who will come out on top in this confrontation?
Decided that dots aren't worth chasing.
Whatever happens, it'll be something to talk about. Who's going to pull away from the pack? Another useless draw. Oh, making a move here. What to do with this tile? Took a pass for now. Oh my, and there's the niche.
There are any number of responses here.
Will it be possible to catch up here? Excellent evasive action. Look at that Dora.
The player on the right has discovered.
The player on the left, that's a pawn. Is this hand going to end quietly?
keeping a very cool head here.
Who the player? Is it time for a call? Still holding back. Following suit on that last discard. Still no calls. One step in the wrong direction.
Cheat.
The player across. Here we have a cheat. The player playing it safe here.
Wrong.
There it is. The player on the left suffers an unexpected East 2. The Dora is the 2 of dots. The player is East. How does this starting hand look to you?
A quick tenpai is very much in the cards here.
This is not an easy spot to work around. The player, first place is well within striking range. Any calls on took a pass for now. Decided to pass on that middle weight. What to do with still holding back? The player is already one tile to tenpai.
This hand is very near completion.
Draws yet another simple.
まあよくねこれ。
Decided that BAMs aren't worth chasing.
This table is so quiet I could hear a pin drop. The player is still no calls. Things are at a standstill. The player, tenpai. The air is tense as the players take their turn. Hanemon tenpai.
That's a very confident reach.
The player on the right decides to match the player's discard. The player on the left is playing cautious.
The player across the table is assuming that it's an open weight.
The player, can this hand withstand the heat? Chasing Deech.
This is a Deech shootout.
There's only one winner in a Deech shootout. Have things calmed down for the moment?
Wrong.
There it is. The player across suffers an unexpected East 3. The Dora is the 9 of cracks. The player is north. The player on the right is in first.
At the moment, this is anyone's game.
The stage is set. Anything can happen. The player, first place is well within striking range. The player, one step in the right direction.
This hand is really beginning to come together.
Who's going to make the first call here?
Probably looking to block that red dragon for quite a while.
Any calls on took a pass for now. This table is so quiet I could hear a pin drop. The player on the right continues to discard simples. What to do with this still holding back? The player is already one tile to tenpai. The player, is it time for a still no calls? Oh wow, and there's a call.
そ。
How are the players going to approach this hand? Hanemon Tenpai!
Not necessary to reach on a hand of this caliber.
嘘。嘘は出にくいかな。
No one dares to make. Oh! Making a move here.
くそ。
The air is very tense at this moment.
考えてな今日。
Doubled up on a tile that was just discarded.
まあでも俺しょうがないな。
Have things calmed down for the. Ah, gee!
もっとしょうがねえ
The
わ。
player on the left. A very swift win off. East 4. The Dora is the one of dots. The player is west. The player on the left is in first.
At the moment, this is anyone's game.
Now, let's watch how things develop. The player. First place is well within striking range.
連続で逃した。
The player. One step in the right direction.
This is the point where skill really factors in.
Any calls on this? Took a pass for now. Things are at a standstill. The air is tense as the players take their. Oh, wow, and there's a call. The player on the left makes a call on another crack.
これ完全に壊れてんなこれ。はあ。
What to do with this? Still holding back. Ah, geez! The player on the left. What an incredible win! South 1. The Dora is the 4 of Bams. The player is South. How does this starting hand look to you?
8 orphans here. Can we make it to 13?
Is this a battle that can be won?
マジか。そんなばっかやな。
The player. One step in the right direction.
This hand is really beginning to come together.
What's going to happen to this score gap? The player. Is there any way to turn the tables here? Who's going to make the first call here? The player. 2 tiles to Tenpai.
The next few tiles could make a huge difference.
Oh, wow, and there's a call. How are the players going to approach this hand?
G
The player. Any calls on this top? Took a pass for now.
ほい。
The player is already 1 tile to Tenpai.
It's important to find the best possible weight.
891。って言ってる場合。
No one dares to make the first move.
3枚目だ。
4
There it is. The player across suffers an unexpected. South 2. The Dora is the 5 of dots. The player is east. The player on the left is in first.
Still very much in a position to win the game.
Let's see how this battle unfolds. What's going to happen to this score gap? The player on the left drops a pair.
Decided that cracks aren't worth chasing.
Any calls on this tile?
1
The player makes a call out of nowhere.
This could sound an alert to the other players.
The player on the left continues to discard simples. What to do with this? Took a pass for now. The player, is there any way to... The player is...
オン
The player made a call there.
やってしまいか。
The air is very tense at this moment.
なんかそっちがすごいことやってる。今日はどういう日だよ。またこう気分とか俺。
Have things calmed down for the
今日は危ね
moment?
えじゃん。
The player on the left discards another dot. The player across pairs up on the Dora. How are the players going to approach this hand? The player, Tempai!
先輩。さて、問題はこう仕事刺されないことにどるだけだ。
Who will arise victorious this time?
さらに大橋来て。危ねえから。
We're witnessing a tense push and pull. Oh, making a move here. Is this hand going to end quietly? The player, can this hand withstand the heat?
はあ。
Oh my! There it is. The player on the left takes a beating.
A very
South 2, one counter. The Dora is the 8 of dots. The player is East. The player finished the last hand quick and dirty. This is not an easy spot to work around. Any calls on this? Took a pass for now. What to do with this? Still holding back. The player on the left makes a call out of nowhere. The player, 2 tiles to Tempai.
This hand is really beginning to come together.
Look at that Dora.
マジかこれもう。
What's going to happen to this score? The player on the left already calls a second meld.
どうしようこれ。これは正直
The player, is there any way to turn the tables here?
やる気が出ねえ入っちゃった。
ずっと眠って弱いやつサブさん、こんばんは。
No one dares to make the first move.
ほんとぶっ壊れとるわ俺。バグりまくる。
My, oh my, and there's the beach.
I'm curious to see if this develops into a confrontation.
Will it be the player?
ロン
There it is. The player on the left suffers an unexpected.
裏な。
South 3. The Dora is the 2 of cracks. The player is north.
悪いんだ。
The player on the right is in first.
At the moment, this is anyone's game.
The stage is set. Anything can happen.
これにかけるってことはラツも覚悟しなかったな。紙一重だ。
The player, first place is well within striking range. Another useless draw. East is looking to shut down. The player on the left makes a call out of nowhere.
That kills the Ipatsu.
これ逃げ切れるかな。
The player on the right has discarded that tile.
The player's going for it.
切れないな。ローピースラブね。
The players are already visualizing their winning hands.
Maybe it is better to hold back without any green dragons visible.
The air is very tense at this moment. Any calls on this took a pass for now.
こんな手なのリターンに限るんだけどな。しかしこれむずいむずい。
Have things what to do with this still holding back. One step in the wrong direction.
あ、よくやめとんのは。まあ、ワンチャンだからね。
How are the players going to approach this hand? The player, is it still no calls?
4、
There it is! The player on the left suffers an unexpected. South 3, one counter. The Dora is the 3 of dots. The player is north.
I'd love to see some tile drawing magic here.
Now, let's watch how things develop.
力いるか。
What's going to happen to this score gap? The player, one step in the right direction.
The next few tiles could make a huge difference.
Any calls on this took a pass for now. The player, is there any way to turn the tables here?
East、
My, oh my, and there's the niche!
There are any number of responses here.
Question is, can the players survive this situation? Chasing niche!
There are any number of responses here.
What to do with this tile? Still holding back.
That's a safe tile for the player across the table.
ロン、
There it is! The player across suffers an unexpected. South 4. The Dora is the 5 of Bams. The player is west. Heading into the final hand of the match.
The player will win with a mangan off the player on the right.
Well, it's hard to know just how this will turn out. What's going to happen to this score gap?
3着単語でいくか。
The player, is there any way to turn the tables here? Things are at a standstill.
なるべく入っとく。固まったとこだけ。
The air is tense as any calls on this tile? Took a pass for now. Look at that Dora! The player, one step in the right direction.
This is the point where skill really factors in.
わかんない。
Who's going to make the first call here? What to do with this tile? Oh, wow, and there's a call. The player, gaining momentum.
This hand is really beginning to come together.
これはさすがに。
The player, is it?
G、
The player, Here we have a cheat. The player, one tile to Tenpai.
This hand is very near completion.
トップがビールです
The player on the left continues to discard simples.
Decided that dots aren't worth chasing.
あらかじめ行くラスだったらごめんなさい
No one dares to make the first move.
勝負が来たんですこれは
This east could be kept as a safe tile.
The player on the right drops a pair. The air is very tense at this moment.
East うわーリーチ行くのか
East has declared Deech.
Gotta be cautious against an east deech.
Ah, jeez. The player across. A very swift win off the wall. South 4, one counter. The Dora is the 3 of dots. The player is west. Still on the final hand. What's our situation?
The player will win with a mangan off the player on the right.
Is there a victory on the horizon? What's going to happen to this score gap? The player. Is there any way to turn the tables here?
持ってくれよいやとてもじゃないですよこれ
This table is so quiet I could hear a pin drop. Another useless draw. Oh wow, and there's a call.
これ感覚だから
Any calls on this tile? Oh, making a move here.
俺はカオルさんに言ったことが
Have things calmed down for the
すっ
moment?
ごく難しい本当にその通り
Look at that Dora.
ち
The player on the right. What to do with this tile?
ポン
The player. That's a pawn.
ポン
The player on the left misses a turn.
East
Uh-oh, East has declared Deech.
I'm curious to see if this develops into a confrontation.
Will it be possible to catch up here? The player. That's a pass on Tenpai.
The player across the table has discarded that tile.
高橋さんもっと待ってマジか
Ah, jeez. The player across. What an incredible win.
すげえな
South 4, 2 counters. The Dora is the 6 of bams. The player is west. Still on the final hand. What's our situation?
The player can win with a self-drawn Haneman.
Well, it's hard to know just how this will turn out. What's going to happen to this score? Any calls on this time?
ポン
The player makes a call out of nowhere.
This lifts a heavy burden.
ネパ助かるところがあった
What to do with this? Took a pass for now. The player. Is it time? Still holding back. The player. Is there any way to turn the tables here? Oh, making a move here.
ち
The player already calls a second meld. The player is already one tile to Tenpai.
Certain tiles will fit right into this hand. Others will gradually transform it.
East
Uh-oh, East has declared Nietzsche.
I'm curious to see if this develops into a confrontation.
Will it be possible to catch?
ロン
There it is. I hear a roan.
That was a speedy finish.
South 4. 3 counters. The Dora is the 6 of cracks. The player is West, still on the final hand. What's our situation?
The player has one final chance to make a big move.
Is there a victory on the horizon? Any calls on this? Took a pass for now. The player, one step in the right direction.
This is the point where skill really factors in.
Another useless draw. What's going to happen? What to do with this tile? Still holding back. This hand is going nowhere. Oh, wow, and there's a call. The player, 2 tiles to Tempai.
This hand is really beginning to come together.
コン
The player across makes a call on another. The player, is it still no calls? Oh, making a move here. The player, 1 tile to Tempai.
This hand is very near completion.
The player, is there any way to turn the tables here? The player on the right continues to discard simples. The player on the left, here we have a cheat.
こんな相手みたいな配置、問題でくれよ、こんなルーピンなんとか。どうすんだ、これ。マジかよ。
Who will seize the win this hand?
缶ルーピンあるか、ルーピンシャボとか。
ロン
There it is! The player across suffers an unexpected.
あー、これは無理だ。疲れ。お疲れ様でした。ちょっと手的に無理これ。